I'm not the arbiter of truth, the audience is. I try to bring information in a balanced way. I ask questions and I always have both sides on stage, and I get attacked for it all the time. Now I get called a Zionist and a Hamas sympathizer. I get called pro-Russian, pro-Ukrainian. I get called a Democrat, a Republican, which is perfect for me. As soon as one side is happy and one side is not happy, it means I'm not doing something right.
You really, really feel passionate about trying to present the facts and trying to present them equally so people can make decisions.
Most problems are solved with communication. You'd be surprised how dumb people are. You put them together in a room, magic could happen. X offers you the platform to do it, but it's on you to do it.
I can't believe when you tell me your real passion is business, when I just saw you speak passionately for an hour about journalism.
It's like I run two lives. One of them that requires dealing with drama, hate, attention, death threats, security risks, and then another one, business meetings, behind the scenes, jumping on calls with the team, closing deals, and making money. So it's like two different lives. I'm in the middle.
Do you think we will live in a future where someone in the media can literally make a change that'll change the world forever? Like, we've never really seen a figure like that could bring people together. Do you think that we will?
People underestimate how censored the world we live in is. They now know they can achieve such control and censorship. When I say they, it's people in power. So if more people do what we're doing and bring both sides together and whatever the topic is, then you can actually take it a step further. Then you can have not only one influential person having a voice on your show like Joe Rogan or mainstream news over the decades, but you have two influential voices coming together and speaking. It's underrated how much dialogue can solve in our world.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs. Sharing our vulnerability. Overcoming our fears. Transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go? This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Mario Nawfal, the entrepreneur, blockchain expert, angel investor, and citizen journalist. You are the host of The Roundtable, the largest show on X Spaces with an audience of millions tuning in every week. Your guests have included Elon Musk, Hunter Biden, Sam Bankman-Fried, Andrew Tate, Mark Cuban, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, and many, many more. You have become a leading figure in a new wave of alternative media and citizen journalists with the goal of covering the news in an unbiased manner, focusing on facts and offering both sides of the story. You've also founded and built numerous companies, including IBC Group, the international blockchain consultancy firm with a network of experts in over 40 countries. Ultimately, you believe that mainstream media is dead, online censorship is real, and people must seek out new media to find the truth. Mario, welcome to London Real in Dubai.
Brian, you're probably the best person to discuss this with, especially when it comes to censorship. So thanks for having me.
Dude, it's a pleasure having you on here. I know you don't do many of these, so I can't wait to get inside your mind. I want to go straight to it. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, I was in London. It was 8 o'clock at night, and I saw one of your spaces open up with Alex Jones, and he was going to talk, I think, about being re-platformed on Twitter. He had just done a Tucker Carlson interview. Now, I've known Alex for a while. When I was censored in 2020 during COVID times, he had me on his show. And I tuned into your space, and within minutes, it's Alex Jones, Elon Musk, Andrew Tate rolls up with his brother Christian, then Vivek Ramaswamy comes in, and you've got this crazy, surreal discussion happening between 4 or 5 men that you probably will never get in the same room. And yet here they are talking real, uncensored, unscripted, and there's over 100,000 people watching live. And I just want to know from your perspective, and you're moderating it too, so you get to try to moderate this thing at the same time. What's that like to do something like that? Do you pinch yourself sometimes that it's actually happening? And then, what are the ramifications? This is literally almost a new form of media that you've created.
I think most people don't understand how important this is. Like, you've got some of the most censored people on the planet coming on and discussing some of the most pressing issues. Mainstream media will never platform these people. They won't platform them at the same time. So to have them rock up, like Elon wasn't planned to be there. It was Alex Jones, and I messaged Elon, hey, can you jump in? He was able to jump in. And Tristan, I think we messaged, Andrew came in afterwards. I think he just saw the space. I think that was the first time he joins our space. And, there's a few important points. First, the important role X is playing when it comes to media. All these different news outlets, they barely cover my spaces, except when it's a topic they like. So that space didn't get much attention. Everyone liked the fact that Vivek went to the bathroom while his mic is unmuted, despite very important issues being discussed. So in terms of me pinching myself, we've had a lot of these spaces. I've been doing this for a while. I pinch myself when I start seeing the real world impact. Like so when I go out of my little bubble, we talked about it earlier. I'm in my room or in my house running the space. I don't know that there's millions or hundreds of thousands listening on the other side. I don't know the impact it has, especially when I cover something like the war in Gaza. So when I did that space, I didn't know how many people actually listened to it until I go out and people are like, that's an incredible space. Not sure if I can curse. If I do, I apologize. Sorry. That's an incredible space. And then it starts to click like, holy shit, like there's never been an interview with that many censored people in one place. And then it's all unscripted. So you have no idea what they'll talk about. And I became an audience member, so I was moderating it, but most of the time I was just sitting there and listening because I'm there to facilitate it. Yeah. It's not about me, it's about them. So it was one of my I put it in definitely my top 10, top 5 spaces we've ever had, and it's unplanned. A lot of our spaces that blow up are unplanned. This is what's different to spaces, beyond being uncensored, is that you don't know who may rock up. Right. Like when we're doing the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, we didn't plan for Bill Ackman to jump on. Like we're doing another show with him that is planned, prepared, but when he jumped into the Silicon Valley, which he was leading the way in one of the leading voices when it comes to the government response to the collapse, he wasn't planned. Mark Cuban wasn't planned. Jason Calacanis wasn't planned. All the other guys, they just rock up because they see the space there. And that's the beauty of it. And I think it's very, very underrated. It's very different to any other media that exists because shows are scripted. Interviews are organized in advance. Whenever there's CNN, Fox News covering an event live, they bring their guests, they schedule their guests in advance, which we do as well. But they can't bring, so if they're talking about the mutiny in Russia and a politician in Russia is listening to CNN's coverage, he can't just phone in and jump on. It's very rare. Yeah. On Twitter Spaces, all they need to do, and it happens a lot, a politician's listening. We've had that happen. Senators in the US, politicians in the Arab world, they just press one button, we see the request, we vet them, and we've got a politician that's up, or we had journalists come on and we can hear the airstrikes in the background, or the gunshots when we did the Ukraine war, the gunshots in the background. So that's something else about spaces that people are not talking enough about. That's why we're so focused on that platform. It's very different to anything else.
Yeah. I mean, again, I guess if Elon hadn't taken over Twitter, this wouldn't be happening necessarily.
I've been doing spaces well before Elon. And, whenever we stream, in the early days, we used to stream our spaces on YouTube. They get taken down. Right. Because it's not scripted and we don't control the content. And we cover both sides. So for example, the war in Gaza, I'm happy to have people from Gaza, if members of Hamas, I think we had a member of Hamas come on, they're welcome on. Which other outlet will bring a Hamas member on? And of course, the IDF has been on, I think we've had politicians from Israel on at the same time, politicians in Lebanon on at the same time. Lebanon and Lebanese and Israelis, they're legally not allowed to be on stage together. Lebanese people are not allowed to talk to Israelis. They're not allowed to share a stage. They're not allowed to interview them. Yet we have them on stage together on spaces. This is not something I could do on any other platform. Rumble, which you're a proponent of free speech. Rumble is similar to spaces, to Twitter, to X. And they've done a great job in fighting censorship. But as we were talking earlier, it's a very, very tough uphill battle.
Yeah, very much so. Besides that Elon one, and again, it was just crazy because none of those guys have probably ever had a conversation with each other. I think Alex and Andrew have talked, but just Elon, I'm sure, has never had a conversation with Alex Jones.
Never.
And he never probably, has had a conversation with Andrew Tate. I doubt he has.
No, they've never talked.
And now they're all talking at once with a presidential candidate chiming in. And like you said, it's unscripted, and it's just wild to see what happens. Also, what I found interesting is that Elon asked Alex some hard questions that were bothering him about Sandy Hook, and Alex answered, and Elon was like, okay, all right, solved. So like in a weird way, you have just squashed a beef that could have massive ramifications for freedom of speech, for censorship, all this stuff. I mean, this is a new form of medium. It's a new medium,
Another thing as well is that most people don't understand when you're on stage in those spaces, it feels like a phone call because it's just audio. You're jumping on, you can just request up. We had a lot of speakers that call it a phone call, like I joined Mario's call, like a Zoom call. Yeah. And that's important because they have the comfort. Like for example here, if you haven't done a lot of interviews, you'd be stressed. You've got the lights, you've got the cameras, and that's most formats are structured like this. So it means I know I'm on the spot. I know there's a camera, and instinctively I'm going to be paying attention to that in what I say. But if I'm just in a car and Vivek was in the bathroom afterwards, or in bed, or we had Elon join once and he's getting dressed to go into a conference room while in the space. There's that level of comfort, and you forget that the world is listening. It becomes like they're on a phone call together or they're sitting on a table together. So it becomes very raw and a lot more open. Some things that were said, like the first time that ever happened, I realized the power of it was when I was in the space that blew me up, the FTX space. When FTX first imploded, no one would believe what we know now. We were the first to have a whistleblower come on. Her name, I won't mention her name, but she's in a recorded space. She came on, she worked at one of the top exchanges in crypto. And she was talking about exactly what we know now. The beef between CZ and SBF, what SBF has done, all the allegations, which ended up being a lot worse. Back then, it was a massive shock. So she came on, she was sharing it because she felt like it's a private discussion. And later, her voice started crackling. I remember that space really well. And I realized that she's getting pressure on the other side. And then suddenly she's like, guys, actually, I cannot keep talking about this. And she starts messaging us, guys, can you delete it? We can't, it's a live space. I can't keep doing this. I'm getting a lot of pressure. And then she leaves the stage. So I realized that you have whistleblowers. We work with James O'Keefe, who does a weekly space with us. Whistleblowers are more comfortable, and I had that a lot with FTX, more comfortable joining our space than going on Fox or CNN and having all the cameras point towards them, because they have that feeling of security and that rawness to it.
Speaking of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried joined one of your spaces when all this was kicking off, right?
Exactly, yeah. He's the first public appearance he made, or the second. I think the first was New York Times. So the second was on our space. And that was in the court papers. So I found it recently. They talked about my space in the court papers, which is crazy to me. Like, when I was doing it back then, I never thought would be part, because he said some things that were incriminating in our space that backfired on him. But yeah, so that was... FTX was pretty wild.
Right. So I know you had a bunch of big ones along the way. I listened to your Silicon Valley coverage when I was in London. I listened to your Russia coverage, and we can talk about those because those were crazy moments. And again, sometimes your streams go on how long? Like, what's your longest?
FTX was probably one of the longest. The Russian one would probably be the second, and the Gaza will be the third. So with FTX, obviously, it was nonstop because it was just kept getting worse to worse to worse. So I would do a space for like 20 hours, then I'd sleep for 3, then I'd do another one for 24. And that wasn't all planned. I never wanted to be in the limelight, but there was a need for it. So then I go to sleep, 4 hours later, I get woken up because the hack that happened, and all the funds were getting siphoned off from their wallets. And then I have to do another space that ends up going for another 24 hours. So that was one of the wilder ones. And I had no team. I had my whole team, like my whole company. I have an incubator. That's my main business. I had to freeze everything, move my entire resources to be able to operate that space and get a team to vet the news, vet the like I've done spaces before, right, more structured, and I've done Clubhouse rooms. I used to do the biggest rooms on Clubhouse. Tiny compared to the FTX space and what I have now. So I wasn't ready to deal with what I have now. Now we've got the infrastructure to deal with it. So that was a crazy one. The mutiny one was probably one of the more surreal ones. Was crazy because I was doing the submarine one. Remember the submersible that got lost?
Yeah.
And there was a bunch of people on it. Everyone's trying to figure out, are they alive, not alive?
The Titanic one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I covered that one. I wasn't planning to, but I'm like, let me try to do a space. It blew up for 20 hours. So I did that. I got 6 hours of sleep, did Imran Khan interview, the former Pakistani Prime Minister, not long before he got arrested. And while I'm doing the interview with Imran Khan, the mutiny started. So I'm talking to Imran, who met Putin, and he was with Putin. He said it in the space. He was the first person Putin told outside a circle that, hey, we're invading Ukraine, because he was meeting Imran Khan while the invasion was happening. So Imran Khan was telling us about that experience and his thoughts about the mutiny, and he's asking me for updates, like, hey, what's happening? And I give him updates, the mutiny's happening. So we end the interview with Imran Khan, which was already a crazy interview. Pakistan was all watching. And then immediately kick off the space for the mutiny. That goes on for 24 hours exactly, because that's how far along the mutiny. It's just insane. And then I end that. I had to go film a reality TV show in LA. So I packed my bags, head off to LA, and that's where the hit pieces begin, the biggest ones. So I had to do, that was probably the crazy one. And then the Gaza war was crazy because it's ongoing till now, 102, 3, 4 days and counting. Yeah. So that was, that sucked up a lot of energy, but I had more resources for the Gaza war and even the mutiny than I had back during FTX.
Okay, good. Well, I want to dive into a few of these things, including the hit piece, and I want to talk about a couple of these spaces because each one was slightly different, and I want to find out how you stay on point. You don't have any journalism background, do you? No formal training. So how are you making decisions on how you want to be a journalist in real time? This is in a brand new medium where there's no rules. You know?
Yeah, a lot of people, everyone asks what my stances are on everything. You know, I get called a Zionist and a Hamas sympathizer. I get called pro-Russian, pro-Ukrainian. I get called a Democrat, a Republican, which is perfect for me. As soon as one side is happy and one side is not happy, it means I'm not doing something right. So your question is, I don't have a journalism background. I think that's a good thing, because I've got a lot of respect for real journalists, and I wouldn't put them all in one basket. There's journalists that have nothing better to do than write hit pieces and fabricate information. And there's others that risk their lives in war zones to bring stories that no one else would cover. They're not the same, but they're both called journalists. I think it's unfair. I don't have that background, but since I was a kid, because of a few personal experiences, I've learned to always be in the middle on any issue.
You've said this before. You got to allude a little bit. What were these personal experiences? Because it clearly defines who you are today.
Look, I've seen how polarizing topics, and this is very important for the US right now, polarizing topics could destroy families, which I went through, could destroy friendships. I think someone put that warning out. We tweeted about it a couple of days ago. Someone was warning about this is going to happen in the US. I think it was yesterday. It's like, friendships are going to get destroyed. Families are going to get destroyed in the next election because of how polarized the US is. Organizations, cultures, companies, employees, it's going to get ugly. But it's still very, very different and much better to what you see in Arab countries, in Eastern European, in some Asian countries, African countries, where people kill each other because of political or religious ideologies. So I have no religious beliefs, I have no political stances.
But you have a family background that makes you sensitive to the facts.
My family was almost gonna. So my mom and dad's family are completely split politically. I spent time with my mom's family, and they brainwashed me when I was a kid on why their political stance is the right one and the other one is horrible. I spent time with my father's family, complete opposite. They got pictures and like obsessed with them, and their history. Two of my family members within one family, my mom's family, almost went to war against each other on two separate sides. I find that to be extremely stupid. So since then, and always being in those political discussions, I've been in politics technically since I was a kid, because I was obsessed with it since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Even though my business, I almost did political studies in university before I went into banking and finance. So my obsession in politics has existed for a long time. And I've seen, it's very simple, man, and you know it better than everyone. There's a lot we don't know. We come to conclusions, we fight with others because of conclusions that we have based on extremely limited and filtered information. So I decided to never come to any conclusions and instead always look for this information, always ask questions. I made that promise to myself as a kid. That's what I do now. I ask questions and I always have both sides on stage, and I get attacked for it all the time. I got so much hate when I got Alex Jones. But I think, even though I disagree with a lot of what he says, it doesn't mean he shouldn't have a platform and have a debate with others. And I'm not the arbiter of truth.
Right.
The audience is. I try to bring information in a balanced way.
That's the statement there. You're not the arbiter of truth. And you recognize that you got to check all your biases at the door and just present both sides equally. And because your family history, that's burned into you. You're originally born in Lebanon, then you went to Australia, but you had all this stuff mixed up in the family.
Exactly. I migrated to Australia as a kid, so I've lived in a democratic country, a very open. Australia is an incredible country. I've got a lot of respect for the culture they have. And that's kind of what kind of built me. But I do have a Lebanese background. And I've seen that country is extremely polarized, like probably one of the most polarized countries in the world. It's a mix of religiously, it's got Christians, it's got Druze, Sunni, Shia, and within Christians, there's different groups. Christian groups are split and they went to war with each other. Sunni groups are split, went into war. Shia split, went to war over the last few decades. Then they all fought together. Then Syria entered. Then Israel entered. Then the US is involved. Europe. It's a melting pot of all this bullshit from all around the world kind of mixed together. And I'm just witnessing. It's probably the best place to see how little we know, especially now, obviously having access to the people that I have access to. I see the information that the world doesn't have, that I'm not allowed to share on stage. And like, guys, like, you're coming to those conclusions, but you have no idea how little you know. And Lebanon is the perfect example of a country just gone to shit. It's considered like they used to call it the Switzerland of the Middle East.
The Paris of the Middle East.
Paris of the Middle East, decades and decades ago. And now it's just a corrupt, destroyed country with massive inflation. And that's a society that's just left the country. Most Lebanese people left, like when my family migrated when I was a child. So in hindsight, it's a good place to kind of get the experience and have the values that I have today.
Okay. All right. That really helps, because that's why we know why you're doing it, right? What does Simon Sinek say? Start with why. That's your why. You really, really feel passionate about trying to present the facts and trying to present them equally so people can make decisions and get out of their own echo chamber. We're all in echo chambers. We all bring our emotional baggage to the table. And then a lot of our social medias, they take our echo chamber and they isolate it even more and feed us back what we want to hear. And so nobody can really have these open discussions with each other. It's rare.
Exactly. Like what fulfills me is when I go on my X, which Twitter, which is where most of our focus is on, almost all of it. And I see, Israeli extremists, I'm going to go down the extreme path, and Palestinian extremists, Palestinians that want Israel not to exist, and Israelis that just think Israel should take over Gaza. Both of them engage on my posts and attack me when I post something they don't agree with, but retweet something that they agree with, because I cover both sides. And it exposes both sides to the other side. Otherwise, they'll be in their own echo chamber. I'm sure if I just posted pro-Palestinian content, the Israeli side will just block me, and they'll never be exposed to it. And if I post pro-Israeli content, the pro-Palestinian side will never listen to me. But if I post both, then they'll both attack me, support me, depending on what I post, and debate in the comments. I think that's what fulfills me. And that's something I'm sure there's others doing it, but I haven't found one platform or I'm talking about X, one account that has that, at least when it comes to the topics that I cover.
So you're a peacemaker in disguise.
I try. Look, my goal, I think what will fulfill me is that if I manage to, we've had real world impact, and I'm very humbled by it. But when I take that to the next level, a good example now, something that is still far-fetched in my opinion, but if I have Putin and Zelensky sitting on a table together in my space with different moderators, just having a frank conversation with the world listening, without any involvement from any other countries, just them, two of them sitting down. I know that's not how politics works. Maybe it doesn't lead to something. I'm not saying they're going to reach peace in such a format. That's not how peace is reached. That's not how political decisions are made. I respect that. But just the fact that they managed to have that conversation, the amount of people that were blocked, they blocked each other. I can give so many examples, or I'll try to remember some of them. They blocked each other and they come on my stage and they have a civil discussion, but for years they've been attacking each other, and they make peace on stage. You use Alex Jones and Elon Musk as an example, and Jason Calacanis came on at the end as well, and then went back and forth with Alex Jones as well. That's happened so many times, and this is this is probably one of the few things that fulfills me. It's nice to see that. I wish there's more of it, but I'm not too hopeful.
And like you said, you're not naive enough to think that a Twitter space is going to solve a war. I'm glad you say that. But you're also not, short-sighted enough to think that it couldn't start something that would lead to a peace. And look at all the things. Look at Reagan and Gorbachev. I mean, that closed down a massive Cold War. That brought the wall down because two men could find a rapport. Okay, politically, it still had to be maybe the right place at the right time. But you might argue if they weren't talking, that could have been postponed by 5 years, 10 years.
How many problems, I used to tell this to my employees for years now, most problems are solved with communication. You'd be surprised how dumb people are. Yeah. Like some of the stupidest problems, my employees are fighting about something silly. I'm like, guys, just get on a call. Like, we don't need a call. This is black and white. Just get on a call. They get on a call, later they're best friends. And you'd be surprised how this applies. I'm surprised, even to the smartest and most powerful people in the world. You put them together in a room, magic could happen. Again, I'm not being naive about it, but I'm also surprised by how much impact it has. So I think dialogue is what we try to achieve, and we try to be, I cannot think of any platform that is as centrist or as unbiased as us. The mainstream media, some of them, obviously CNN, Fox are good examples of biased ones. There's others somewhere in the middle, Reuters or AP are good examples. So, but still them, they've got their biases. If Hamas put out a statement, I'll use Gaza Walk as the most recent and most fresh, we put the Hamas statement on our platform. A lot of people attacking me, why are you giving them a platform, etc. I'm like, they've got millions of protests around the world that want to hear them. You can disagree with them, but don't you want to know there's a war against them, what they want to say? And then IDF put out a statement and I posted on my channel. And they're like, why are you posting Israeli propaganda? I'm like, guys, I'm posting what the statements made by two sides in a war. If that's propaganda, it's scary what the world has gotten to.
Let's talk about Gaza, because it's the most emotional, it's the most extreme, and it probably pushed you to the limit. I've heard you on some of those spaces, and I mean, let's be honest, that emotion's dialed up to 100. Even though Russia was dicey, but you've got people on those spaces, and sometimes you have to tell people to quiet down. Sometimes you have to say, look, you're being biased here, you're getting emotional. Walk me through how that started and what it was like and what you've had to deal with, from both sides. And how do you keep that space going? How do you stay objective? Do you ever kick yourself afterwards and say, man, I really messed up there?
I'm objective. I do take stances at times. Like, for example, in the Gaza war, I think it's a very nuanced war. It's probably the toughest one to cover. It's the most polarizing. The one I got canceled for attempts to cancel me the most. It's much harder to cancel me now based on what I've gone through. We'll talk about that later, as you mentioned. But I've been targeted the most for that one by various organizations from all sides. I lost employees, I lost co-hosts from both sides. But I eventually get a lot of respect because people eventually saw that I'm trying to cover both sides. And there's value in doing that, no matter what the issue is. It was a really hard one. So my stance is, for example, I think a ceasefire is necessary. And that's the stance I take. I think I'm very anti-war. I think everything could be solved in both sides coming together and speaking. But this is where it kind of stops. Beyond that, as soon as I start taking stances, even though I have stances personally, I don't share them, or I try not to have them impact the space. And I'm really good at that. I'm really good at detaching myself. I've been doing it for too long on a personal level and with the show. I don't let them impact the show, because even if I believe in those stances, then the whole show could be put in a bias category. And no one's managed to do that on any topic yet, because I get attacked by both sides all the time, which is great. But that one's really tough. I've covered Israel, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict in the past twice, because there were clashes prior to this war that I covered. And I remember we had people play Hamas communication on our stage live as Israel was hitting a camp in Lebanon. It's a pretty surreal space. That was prior to the war. Even those spaces and the Iranian ones, when the protests were happening, they were really tough. I'm like, these ones, I have to be there. So my co-hosts, who's been my co-host for many months, obviously he had a very strong stance on one side. So we parted ways because of that. And
because he thought you were being biased to the other side.
To the other side. Eventually he understood that I'm trying to be centrist. He disagrees with me, but he's extremely biased on one side. And I respect, I've never badmouthed him or anything, but he was very passionate about that.
Is it because when the emotions get so high, the logic goes out the window? Even with people that that are super intelligent and super logical. Is that what happens?
Yeah, I'll mention in a general way. Yes. Some of the smartest people get triggered. Everyone has a topic that triggers them. I haven't had one person on my stage that could be extremely unbiased about everything. Like, I'll use my co-host as an example. He was extremely unbiased even though he had his opinions on almost everything, he ran spaces in a very unbiased way. He was great at it. He couldn't do it with that one. He's just too passionate about it. And he built an incredible following, and he's got his own niche in that audience. He's done a great job taking that stance, but it just shows how difficult it is to be unbiased. And I never knew how difficult it is until I started struggling finding people to cover for me, because I don't want to be moderating every single space. And I realized how bad the human brain is to just accept the unknown. I don't know what the real motives are behind the Russia war. I can make assumptions. I don't know. I don't know what Israel's motives are in Gaza. I don't know what Hamas's motives were prior to October 7th. I can only make assumptions. There's a lot I don't know, but the human brain is designed to, that's why we come up with conspiracy theories. That's why, I believe religion is kind of an answer to the unknown, in my opinion. So a lot of people can't accept the unknown. It's scary. The unknown is extremely scary. And I think once you accept it, it opens you up to a whole new way of looking at things and of handling things that kind of allowed me to build the platform that we have, which was not planned at all.
What was the hardest moment during the whole Gaza conflict? I mean, in the early days, you must have watched footage or heard things from the attack, and then later probably seen things on the other side, or maybe it was a guest.
I've always received death threats. There's countries I can't go to, countries if I go to, I have significant security. So I've received a lot of threats, so audience size helps. So the more clout you have, the more you'll be targeted, fine. But because of the topics I cover, like if I have a massive audience size, but I talk about US politics, all right, I'll get threats, but it's US politics. I take death threats in the US, very different to death threats in Eastern Europe or death threats in the Middle East. So,
how many countries have you received death threats in?
There's a whole list of countries that if I go to, I do it very discreetly. I very carefully, I never announce when I go there. I don't go there, period. But if I have to go there for any reason, I was invited, I'll just use one as an example. I was invited to go to Ukraine, to the war zone, and me and another politician by a politician from Zelensky's cabinet. And that was a while ago. And I seriously considered it. But then it's just too much attention, because I had a lot of Russian people from the Russian side on my stage. Ukraine isn't going to be too happy on this. Isn't there a journalist in Ukraine that was, I think didn't he die in jail recently, a few days ago?
Yeah.
And it's a journalist that was critical of the war. So I ended up not going. But there's a whole list of them. And I have team members as well.
That work 10 or 20 countries.
There's a lot. And the more issues I cover, the more that list was going to increase. But I think, it's part of the game because of the issues that I cover. The toughest one is, again, I don't want the sympathy towards me, because there's people in Gaza that suffered, in Israel, but mainly Gaza, obviously, considering the death toll there, that suffered significantly more, that are suffering significantly more. I had a pilot from the IDF come on, and pretty strong stances. Like, if there's a school with Hamas members or Hamas weapons in there, but there's also civilians, would you bomb it? Yes, I would. And I've done it before. I'm paraphrasing here. And he's explaining why striking targets that have civilians there is not a war crime and is justified. And then I had another person, his name was Ahmed, on that stage. It was heartbreaking. And he was talking about how his family, he has 7, 8, again, I could get the numbers wrong, family members killed by IDF pilots. And he's talking to an IDF pilot. Where else would that happen? I had another space where I had someone on the Israeli side that lost family members on October 7th, and someone on the Palestinian side that just lost family members that day, and they both found out on that day, and they were talking to each other. I had another guy, also his name was Ahmed or Muhammad, and he lost, he came on, every time he loses family members, he comes on our space to talk about it. In the passion and the pain in his voice. I just don't think you understand the pain of losing so many family members. And he comes on our space to talk about it. Remember, we have pro-Israelis on there as well, listening to him. And they support the strikes that are happening. And there's a victim of those strikes on stage as well. he kind of gave me an idea. I want to get that journalist, the Al Jazeera journalist that lost his whole family, but then worked the next day. Then he got bombed and he lost his cameraman and he was in hospital. Then he worked the next day. And now, a few days ago, he lost his brother and he's still working. I want to get him on. It just gave me that idea. But there's these moments that happen on the Ukrainian side. I'll go back to Gaza, but I had fighters on the ground on the Russian side, fighters on the ground on the Ukrainian side, on stage together. But on the Palestinian one, considering the amount of the death toll and the amount of suffering that's happening, it's a tough one. And these were hard for me to stomach. Obviously, there's things behind the scenes that happen, a lot of footage that I see, obviously, to post. People I talk to that don't want to come on stage. It's sometimes hard to stomach, but I've become almost immune to it now. And a good one would be what's the one I wanted to mention? That was a really hard one to stomach. I forgot it. I was just thinking of it and I kind of blanked out on it. But it was also a really difficult one to listen to and then to bring on stage. But there's been a lot. There's been a hard one.
When you have these two completely different types of people on stage, do they ever listen to each other? Do you ever think they get somewhere, resolve anything? They just try to talk each other down? What do you see and how do you deal with that?
You'd be surprised. The one I wanted to mention, by the way, was a person in Gaza when the war first started, and he was on the run while jumping on our space, managed to get internet with his family. He was extreme, like he's no regret towards October 7th and very, very extreme anti-Israel sentiments. But obviously he's being bombed and lost members, people he knows because of the bombing. But I remember he came on stage and it was one of the most passionate spaces. I think it was the same day or the day before the pilot came on. And that was a tough one as well, knowing that he's with his family and the strikes were happening in the background. There's a lot of similar examples. Now to your question on, does it lead anywhere? Surprisingly, almost all the time. Because I'm very strict on having, I think I've gained that respect where people know that they come on my stage to listen to both sides because we've built that brand. And surprisingly, both sides do listen to each other. And it leads to magical conversations. Obviously, it impacts the audience, and the audience is exposed to both sides, and I get a lot of messages and comments about it. I hope to take it to a bigger scale, but you'd be surprised, again, it's underrated how much dialogue can solve in our world.
And there's Israelis listening that disagree with the Israeli pilot, and maybe there's Gazas listening that disagree with some of the people from Hamas.
Exactly. Right? Of 100%. There's people in Gaza that are anti-Hamas, and there's some people in Israel that are anti the war in Gaza. So, you got both sides, but you got factions within each side that disagree with each other. And you got extremists on each side. Now, I've had a person that wants to wipe out Gaza and a person that wants to wipe out Israel on stage together and debating. Obviously, it doesn't. Some people are just too set in their beliefs, and they're just, butt heads. But that butting heads allows the audience to see both sides clashing. And they don't have to change their mind, but they have to, if they just learn to listen and to be more open-minded, I think that's enough.
Maybe this is unrelated, but will this issue ever be resolved?
It's been too many decades. It's just not enough. Seeing this war, I think people just forgot that the war is still ongoing. There's people dying every day. It's, I think it's just too deep, far too deep into the too polarizing and too far down the road. It is eventually going to be resolved. Nothing can go on forever, but potentially not even in our lifetime, and not the way it should be resolved, in my opinion. But I hope I'm wrong.
So 50 years, 100 years, 500 years.
It's been going on for a long time. If you read research the topic, it's been going on for an extremely long time. It hasn't started on October 7th. It didn't start in the 70s. It's been going on for a long time. It didn't even start in the 40s. So it's too polarizing of a topic for me to even have an opinion on, or even to not only share an opinion, but to have an opinion. It's too difficult.
Right. What are your rules in these spaces? Because I've heard you cut off people. I've heard you say, no, now You getting too emotional, or you're saying things, I'm going to stop you. And these are people that you've had on before. Like I've heard you cutting people off and things. What are your rules, and how do you know when to do that? And also, how do you do that when you're on hour number 20? I mean, like, how do you stay focused? Because you are the guy that has to cut people off and enforce.
Yeah, so, and you're referring to the big polarizing spaces where they end up going on forever and get very heated. I don't have too many rules. I think the number one rule, you'd be surprised, has nothing to do with cutting people off or no swearing and stuff. Like, I don't mind swearing. I want it to be as raw as possible. It just depends on the audience's reaction, the panel's reaction. But for me, the number one rule is balance. It doesn't have to be, equal amount of speakers, but equal amount of speaking time. So we might have 3 pro-Palestinian and 6 pro-Israelis. Doesn't mean it's the imbalance is there, because I might have them both speak the same amount of time. So balance is the number one rule. That's it. Number 2 is the basics. No death threats. I've had people threaten each other on stage a lot. No death threats, and avoiding personal attacks. I don't mind a bit of personal attacks, because it just keeps the energy going, keeps it raw, but just not to get too far-fetched, because then you're moving away from the substance of the issue, and you're making it personal. No one gives a shit whether you think that person's an idiot or that person thinks you're an Israeli spy or a Hamas sympathizer. I don't care. I care about the issue and your opinion on that issue. So I try to avoid personal attacks, and I try to keep it balanced. Okay. How do I do it on hour 20? It's a lot of coffee and a lot of adrenaline, the Wim Hof breathing, for example, and things like that.
Okay. Besides Zelensky and Putin, like, what's next for you? Like, where does this go? How does this evolve? And I know the Twitter platform's evolving, and they're also talking about potentially video coming in, but will that potentially change or even ruin what you've built? Because this medium is very strange. Like you said, there's no video. It's audio only. It's as many people could be on spontaneously. It changes when you even put yourself on video. So what's next?
Yeah, I don't know. So what you're referring to is Elon. A few days ago, he told us that he's adding video feature in Spaces in the next few weeks.
So you can opt in.
Opt in, yeah. That's how I see it. Or it's up to X to share it, but that's how I see it happening. I don't think it will impact Spaces, because in Zoom you can put video on. So I think that will remain the same. If anything, it will make it more personal. Imagine you have someone from Gaza. Guys, look at the destruction. Or someone in Israel, the warplanes are there.
Or even seeing someone's face when they communicate.
It makes it a lot more personal. Yeah. A dialogue on a phone call is very different to face-to-face. So I think we'll have more impact when it's face-to-face. So when it's within Spaces, I think it will have more impact. I think it's a great addition. But we'll see. The audience, the users will decide. Now, in terms of the video feature on X, we're using that. We did the interview with Walter Isaacson to launch our show, and then the war started, so we kind of paused that. We're starting it again. A lot of focus is placed into it, live streaming as well. And, big fans of the platform, so happy to do our part in supporting it and pushing it on all the, Vivek, for example, is doing a daily, even though it doesn't get a big audience on X, a couple of thousand live listeners, he does a daily video show, streams all his events video on X. It doesn't take much for people to leverage that platform and those features. I just don't think it's extremely different to Twitter Spaces. When you do the video show, you can't just have people randomly rock up and come up. You don't have, it's not a call anymore. It's a live stream. And I think that's a very big difference. And already seeing the adoption on video is minuscule compared to the adoption on Spaces, despite a lot of effort pushing video. So we'll be doing videos, and we already started, but Spaces is still the focus. And it's, again, the impact of it is highly underrated.
What can you tell me about Elon? What's your relationship like with him? And what's it like when Elon retweets your stuff, comes on your space? I mean, that must be kind of strange.
Yeah, it's he's been extremely supportive, and look, I can just talk about publicly. He's retweeted content he agrees with. He's credited us when we did things right, like the mutiny. We tried to cover that live, because when we covered the mutiny, we were getting information not from the news. So many times mainstream news outlets are in our audience, and they DM us for news, their information for sources, because we have a team that gets it from not people on the ground or these Telegram groups, the Wagner Telegram group, for example, in the war in Gaza, from the Hamas Telegram groups, or the journalists on the side, or people from Hamas. Like, we get it directly from the source, as raw as it gets. And we share it, even if it's unconfirmed, like, hey, this is unconfirmed, shared in a Wagner Telegram group or in a pro-Russian Telegram group or from someone on the ground. We're finding a way to confirm it, and we've been pretty accurate in it. Obviously, we don't just post anything random. It has to be a verified source. So kind of going back to your point in Elon, so when we do things right, for example, the mutiny, you know, he brings attention to it, or when there's truth.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.
Hi, it's Brian Rose from London Real. You probably know that we've just recently been re-platformed on YouTube after 25 months completely in the dark. The truth is, I really need your help. What I really need you to do is click on that subscribe button right now, like this video, and maybe even leave a comment or share the link with friends. We're really fighting against an algorithm that's tried to keep us quiet for so long. And the more subscribers we have, the more people watch our content, the better guests we can bring you, the better content, and we can continue transforming lives. We've been doing this for 14 years now. I want to do this for another 14 years, but I really need your help. So click on that subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, share this, and we're going to continue to bring you more and more great content. Thank you. Most people will never see this opportunity. Dubai luxury transformation projects have historically delivered 40 to 90% annual returns. That is incredible. These were once reserved only for insiders with access. I spent 15 years on Wall Street, and I learned this: the biggest returns always go to the people who get the call first. Now, you finally can. We've just received a brand new project with major upside potential. Allocations move fast. Click the link, apply now, and speak to my team. This is your chance to see what others never will.